everyone. Welcome to the Humanize EDU podcast. I'm Sandy Herrera. My sister, Dr. Stacy Herrera, and I are on a mission to bring the human back to the center of education.
Through our authentic, human-centered conversations, we hope to inspire you to take ownership of your life, mental well-being, and culture transformation journey.
Our conversations range from the wild and windy roads our guests have navigated throughout their careers, to the inspiring stories of overcoming the myriad of challenges within education today.
We hope you'll join us as we bring on exceptional guests who are creating a ripple of impact within the world of education, making a difference in the lives of students and staff every day.
Before we begin, I'd like to invite everyone listening to join us in a brief moment of stillness. Wherever you are, I want you to take a deep breath in and a slow breath out, and another deep breath in, and gently release it. As you breathe in, please hold in your hearts the educators, the students, the families in Minneapolis who are grieving. Please hold space for their pain and also for their strength. Let's just take a few quiet moments together. Thank you. May this upcoming conversation be both a container for compassion and a spark of hope as we begin. So welcome to the Humanize EDU podcast, my friends. My sister, Dr. Stacy Herrera, and I are bringing today's conversation, and it is so tender and important. As many of you know, we were in Minnesota last week supporting a community of Catholic schools when the news broke of not one, but two tragic shootings that involved schools in the neighboring schools where we were. Our hearts are super heavy. We know that this grief is shared by so many in the community, and it was not easy to fly away when our hearts are definitely there and still there. We believe deeply that when educators feel safe, students feel safe. And it's why it's such an honor today to sit with you, Eyenga, not only as a fellow human on this planet, and you are such a beautiful human. We had such a wonderful time finally meeting you in person after a couple of years of working together. Mm-hmm. And as the executive director for the Minnesota Institute for Trauma-Informed Education, known as MITIE for short, Eyenga and her team have been leading this critical work to create schools that are not only centers of learning, but also places of safety, healing, and resilience. And today we want to hold space for the pain, and we also want to shine a light on the hope and the work ahead. So Eyenga, thank you so much for being here. This is such a difficult and a tender time, and we just honor you so much for taking the time to record this podcast with us. I know that the three of us can sit and hold space with one another and walk each other through these times. And we know that recording a podcast is another level of vulnerability. And I just honor you for agreeing to sit with us today. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be with you today.
So first I want to wrap you in a big old hug because I miss you already. And I want to just ground in the work that MITIE's already been doing in leading the way in building trauma-informed schools across Minnesota. Can you share a little bit of that work and, even before this tragedy began, why this work is so essential in today's educational world that we're living in?
Yes, well, thank you again for allowing me to be here with you. I am so honored. And I think that this work is very timely, and it's also timeless because it has to do with humans. And we need systems that support humans. And education is one of the places where we have multi-generational interactions all the time. on a daily basis almost across the entire world. And it's a place of powerful potential. And the work of MITIE really is to lift up what's working in terms of acknowledging the traumas that we all face individually and collectively, while simultaneously holding the belief that we are bigger than the worst thing that's ever happened to us. And so the resilience that you speak of, the transmutation, the transformation of pain, whether it be individual or collective or family, we believe that it is possible to heal. We believe it's possible to transform. We also believe it's possible to flourish. And this work has been going on, again, all around the world. It's just that we're starting to put language to it. And I've been in this role for a little over 2.5 years. And my hope is that the work has a ripple effect, that people feel that they can be included in it, that the schools in which we are currently working feel held and understood, seen and heard, and that there are spaces for reflection and discussion, just like what you're creating here. I'll just say really quickly, because I want to honor our time as well. Currently, there are 3 cohorts of schools that MITIE is focusing on. And essentially, the ways in which we are trying to work at this moment is to organize ourselves into cohorts so that we can serve particular fashions, particular sections of our educational population. So, for example, one of the cohorts, and this is the work that we share right now, as you know, is a cohort of Catholic schools here in Minneapolis. A second cohort is a cohort of middle school and high schools that are working in the alternative education space, working with students who have been sort of chronically underserved by traditional educational models. And these schools are looking at and working with this notion of being teacher-powered, being driven by voice and choice for the students, and really focused on building community. And then the third cohort that we're working with currently are community-based educators, folks who are working in the nonprofit sector across Minneapolis and St. Paul. And that work is through Youth Prize, who identified last year 24 organizations. And we're lifting up their assets-based approaches across cultural sort of communities. So those are the current cohorts. And with a lot of help, we can get this done. MITIE is currently a team of 1. That would be me. So that's why it's really amazing to have you as partners in this work. And I'm really excited to continue this collaboration, especially for our Catholic schools.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And the work that we were doing last week, that we'd been planning for several months, was to bring all of these 4 Catholic schools, as well as their central operations administrative teams, all together within one full day, and really work through our MIWI school model of elevating who they are as brilliant individuals, and then how they collaborate and communicate effectively, and build and grow trust in their core values, and all these beautiful pieces through the lens of the science of happiness and emotional intelligence and neuroscience research, and all these fun, juicy topics that really allow for them to be trauma informed. And then the beautiful work in partnership with the MITIE coaches that you've assembled to be on site at each school monthly, and that work of collaborating with them together. There was, I mean, the timing of everything is not lost on any of us, and yet I still am trying to wrap my head around the timing of it, in the role that we're all meant to play, based upon this universal design. that we're all part of. And so what I want to kind of dive into is really processing that immediate impact, and whatever your comfort level is in sharing, obviously. And I'd love, Stacy, for you to share as well through your lens and our lens. But I'd like to, in the wake of last week's school shootings, one was across the street or in front of, I don't know the exact location, that happened last Tuesday. And then on Wednesday morning was the shooting at the Catholic school inside their church. And so there were two that were so tragically close to one another. But I want to talk about the immediate impact to the community, to potentially your team, the educators, the families, the communities, the students that you're hearing from. What are your resilience? What are you noticing about the resilience, or the pain that surfaced, where we're at?
Yeah. I mean, we're still in it. I mean, it's very present tense, right? So it's not, I really have no words. And I think part of it is that, for all of us in the education space, at least rationally, you're trying to figure out why. And I think that stepping back into just more of the human condition, I think particularly in Minneapolis, St. Paul, one of the things that it's not lost on us is that we have basically encountered over the past 5 or so years a number of really massive tragedies, some of which got global attention because of the moment we were in at that moment, which happens to be the pandemic moment, which of course is a collective experience, right? And so it seems to me that when I have been talking with my colleagues, when I've been talking with families who send their children to public schools, Catholic schools, other private schools, we are really all trying to grapple with how to create containers of safety. That's really where the resilience comes. So if you go back a few years in Minneapolis, and we had tragedies that occurred in South Minneapolis, but were felt around the world, the murder of George Floyd being one of them. As a person who's living currently in South Minneapolis and who was living in South Minneapolis at that time, one of the things that I noticed is we really stood by each other. The communities really, yeah. So that's happening now. That's happening now. And
saying the sense of community is so palpable. I think it just,
yes,
it was our first time to Minneapolis and Minnesota in general. And, you think of it as this sprawling, like massive place, and yet there's so tight knit, and that strong sense of community is so evident.
It's what saves us. If you otherwise, how do you survive it? Because it keeps happening, right? So, so George Floyd was murdered, and then there was this call for no more, no more, no more. And then young men kept getting killed by police, and again and again and again and again. And then we have, fast forward to today, back to back last week, shootings adjacent to or in Catholic schools. And I do know that we have political leaders who are really standing with community and really wanting, in terms of legislation, for us to really look as a state, as cities, as a community, as a state. Okay, so do we need access to weapons of mass destruction? is it okay for individuals to have access to weapons of mass destruction? Not hunting rifles, not a gun that you keep for safety in your home, not those things, but these mass weapons of mass destruction. That is being discussed now. The governor has called for a special session, right? I think that that's important to note in terms of the resilience and the response. But where I'm landing really is community and all of us asking each other, what do you need? How can I help? Or just doing the thing. I remember when we had a lot of situations going on during the pandemic. We had an uprising in Minneapolis. South Minneapolis felt a lot of that. And one of my local restaurants just put out a little Instagram message, and they were like, all right, guys, you know, rice and beans, coffee's on. So if you want to come down and pay for the rice and beans, like, you can, but you don't have to. Just, it was a tough night last night. Come get some. And I think that is something I keep seeing that's going on right now, right? We have, I just learned about a beautiful initiative in the Lyndhurst, you know, community center, a neighborhood resource center. They have mental health services, victim services, therapy animals, financial assistance, like that got set up immediately. It's still running.
Yeah.
It will continue to run.
That level of wraparound support, right?
Exactly.
Everyone has a good idea of how to support, whether it's the restaurant who's like, here, just
Yep.
good meal to gather and feel that togetherness, whether it's services that everyone's in need of to navigate this, because it can rattle everyone in different ways.
Yep.
And if we feel that we can contribute or give back or connect, it allows us to just settle into our humanness a little bit more.
Yep. Absolutely.
When we think about the educators, they're often asked to be that anchor of stability for students while they're carrying their own grief, their own fear. I think about not only, and this is just meant to be a collective impact, right, that we are experiencing nationwide of fear. And I hear this all the time, and I'm sure you do as well in our schools, is that I have to be prepared all the time. I have to be on guard as an educator. I got to be ready. And then we have another unthinkable tragedy. And through your lens, how can we really, what do they need most right now? As educators, the educators that you know, what do they need most from leaders, from colleagues, from the broader community to be supported? Let's talk about the educators just for a minute.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I think in the systems that we partake in, we've all experienced a systemic response to tragedy, right? And while it's very clear what the protocols are, what is unclear is how, as an individual, you're going to get the support you need. When I started my teaching career, I was a language arts teacher in the Hopkins School District, and I had my first year of teaching as a certified language arts teacher in 98. And shortly after that, Columbine happened. And my district responded by increasing the lockdown drills that we had, creating lanyards for teachers that could be pulled that wouldn't choke a teacher, telling us we had to have our keys on us at all times. And I just remember it as a young teacher being like, okay, sure, I can do those things. That's not a problem. You want me to put my keys around my neck and not have them in my desk? Okay, I understand the logic of that, but what are you doing for me emotionally as I have to stand in front of 5 groups of kids, 5 when you're a full-time teacher, 5 groups of 35 who are looking at you like, tell me what is wrong with this world, right? So I think when I think back about myself as an educator, and then I think forward to these groups of teachers that I'm holding in my heart right now, we need to think about how, as a community, we can hold space for the teachers to feel their own grief and for them to feel at a sense of loss and their own pain, and their own vicarious trauma through this. And simultaneously, if we could all magically show up in classrooms across this beautiful community, this beautiful beloved community, and as trusted adults hold space for the students to process, that would also be lovely. I really wish that for us, because educators are going to need to be able to sit in that circle as well, because it is happening to them as well. I think that that's sort of one thing. The other piece is, if we don't have systems that have wellness at the core of our values, for us to all really look at how do we put wellness at the core of our values. And again, I'm just going to refer to my own professional experience as an educator. When I was serving as a principal during the pandemic, we, as a group, so myself and my wellness team and my administrative team and my academic team, we decided on a rule that sort of saved us for about 4 years, which is, when you need to be gone, you need to be gone. There will not be questions asked. You just need to let us know when you need to be gone, for how long, what can we do while you're gone. So as a principal, I would step in and be a social studies teacher. Could be a science teacher. I couldn't run individual therapy sessions, but I could communicate with families that the therapist was gone and that the session would have to take place at a later date. There are all sorts of things I could do. And then the staff also gave me grace, so that when I needed to be gone on a non-holiday and just take care of myself, we did that for each other. So here we are again. We still need to do that. And that takes planning and flexibility, but mostly it takes an ethos of wanting to take care of each other.
Yes.
And grace,
Mhm.
right? That space to give grace to ourselves and to each other, to
Mhm.
be human, to recognize that that's our superpower.
Mhm.
And if we don't bring that to the forefront, we're missing the whole point of living as humans. And to cultivate environments where that's the norm, what a beautiful gift you created in the community that you led. And now, as you grow forward in this work, to create an even bigger ripple of impact, right? And as we're moving towards healing, obviously, I'm going to say, maybe it's not obvious, um, intentionally holding sacred space for what is in this moment.
Yeah.
And when individuals are ready, because it is not a collective timeline, grief is not linear, that we do have the tools to move towards healing when we as individuals or systems are ready to start that journey, right? And as we move from this collective community wraparound support in it, like rice and beans, whatever you need, to this response of how do we move from crisis towards healing. And so I'd love to know, we could spend hours in this and in the details of the work, and we also want to be mindful for your our and everyone listening's nervous system to hear this conversation in bite-sized pieces. So our conversation with Eyenga and with MITIE will continue for years. But I really want, Eyenga, for you to just give us your lens on what gives you hope about the work that MITIE is doing with not only partners like us at Humanize EDU, but the other partners that you mentioned, and what do you see most important, the most important steps that schools can take to move from crisis response towards long-term healing and culture transformations? It's kind of a two-part question, and that might have been too much in this moment as well. So feel free to nudge me on that question that was really packed full.
It's a great question, and it's a really important question. I think it's the key question, right? I think what I love about my partnership with Humanize EDU, thank you to you both, is that deep sense of understanding that transformation is a journey, and that we are not going to write a 100-page manual with 50 steps to take. We are going to, we may have tools available, but we're going to understand that each community is unique, and each community has so many strengths and so many assets that when they tap into their superpower of what makes them them, that's where the transformation happens. And I think the other piece that gives me hope, in partnership is really, it's a really good message for me personally in terms of how I'm wired. I think growing up as firstborn daughter of African parents, right? It's like, okay, you can have all the feelings you want. That's all really gravy. And what are you going to do to save the world? Give me 3 things. Have a letter on my desk this is my dad. Have a letter on my desk by the end of the day, right? I mean, he was like serious, right? So it was like being a leader wasn't really like an option. But the message, so while there are good things about that, the message that kind of enlivens my fears is that it's all up to me. I have to do everything by myself. I just am a team of one. I can't count on anybody. Nobody understands it. And so when I flip that script and I think about collaboration, I start to understand that partnership and collaboration, those are the ways we are going to heal ourselves, is that by me trusting you, Sandy, by me trusting you, Stacy, we are going to elevate the genius that exists in the schools that we're working with this year, next decade, right? And we're going to continue to invite people to that table to speak their truth about what their genius is and how to amplify that sense of belonging. And I'll just end with this. I think that as I've been reflecting on the events that have transpired in this community in the past week, I just keep coming back to a question about what do I do? What can I do to create a sense of belonging for every single solitary human that's interacting in school systems? So not just for the students, but for the parents, for the staff, for the teachers, for the administrators. How do we create a sense of belonging and make sure that no one ever feels that they're on the outside of that bubble of community and family love? That is really crucial to me as I'm working forward, hopefully living into that collective genius that I want to amplify so badly.
I love that. I love that. And our work is so aligned, and I believe that we've known each other for lifetimes. And finally, we're able to find each other and do this work together. And so as we do wrap up, for those that may be feeling overwhelmed just by the weight of the tragedies, regardless of their proximity, regardless of their role, individuals, we want to help, right? That we're hardwired to take care of one another. And so what's an action, big or small, that you believe could make just a meaningful difference? Because people don't just want to do something that they're like, oh, well, it really didn't matter. People want to have that sense of meaning behind it, in order to support trauma-informed education as we grow forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think um, I'm going back to the rice and beans. I think there are just some basic things that we need as humans. And I think about my neighborhood. I think about in South Minneapolis. I think about the pizza oven that was created in a lot adjacent to the house on the corner. So the pizza oven is a place of gathering and community love. It's just all about love. And there's also a garden there. And you can hop on the neighborhood Google spreadsheet and say, I must have a pizza party on this particular date because it's my birthday. Or you can just walk down the alley to the pizza oven and just claim it and make your pizzas and invite people. But this sense of what can we do to invite each other into the humanness of this moment? Food is amazing. Um, Running errands for people. I think sometimes when we're in crisis, our brains short circuit. So for some people, driving may become difficult. I think it's not unheard of to offer for a neighbor that you pick up their dry cleaning or pick up groceries or pick up their kids or what have you. But just really being able to ask the question, what do you need? How can I help? Um, and really reducing those barriers to the reach out, that the reach out can be via text, and it can really be 24 hours, and it can really be to share joy too. I think that's really helped us in Minneapolis as a community, to ask that question, what's bringing you joy today? And it's a deep acknowledgement of like, yeah, there is a lot going on, but what I want to connect with you on is, how are you feeling the most alive? How are you feeling the most hopeful? What's bringing you joy today?
I love that.
Thank you.
Eyenga, thank you for sharing your heart, your wisdom, and your courage with us today. We know that conversations like this are not easy, and yet they're so necessary. So to our listeners, these tragedies remind us that our schools are not separate from our communities, and we are all deeply connected, and they are the heartbeat of how we want to enrich the next generation. So each of us has a role to play in supporting trauma-informed practices, in caring for our educators, and in making sure our children have safe, loving environments to grow. If today's conversation moved you, we encourage you to learn more about the work of MITIE, and to consider how you might bring trauma-informed practices into your own school, workplace, or community. Because healing doesn't happen alone, it happens together. Eyenga, thank you again for walking with us in this work, and to everyone listening, may we each hold space for grief and also for hope, and ask what brought someone joy today as we continue forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Eyenga.
Thank you for listening, learning, and growing with us here on the Humanize EDU podcast as we reignite the love of learning.
Remember to give us a like and subscribe to hear more. Wishing you a beautiful day on purpose.